One moment. How many of the reports do you have, apart from the backgrounder? Do you have all 6? Please confirm. Do you have all? Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Our youths constitute more than 60% of the nation's population and are mostly referred to as vanguards of the society. Now, these twin assertions suggest how significant the role of youths is in nation building. From pre-colonial to independent administrations, and now, many decades after Nigeria attained self-government, youths have continued to push for a national agenda that is based on unity, respect for constitutional order, and sovereignty of the nation. But recent happenings have raised concerns about the position of youths in the country. Tonight, on NTA Tuesday Live, we'll focus on governance, mentorship, and youth development, but that will be after this report by Joseph Otsen.
Every country and its citizens need quality life with access to good infrastructure, education, health, rule of law, political freedom, and economic opportunities. Beyond the rich natural and human resources, the analysts believe sustainable development is driven largely by good leadership supported by a trusted followership.
And like they say, experience usually births wisdom. Not many people, not many young people have that kind of opportunity and privilege. So when you have the interaction of experience wisdom with perception and perspective, and it's properly integrated, it provides or rather results in stronger positive consequences.
From independence in 1960 to date, Nigeria has had opportunity to govern itself, but how much has this experience in molding its generation for progress? For many, the country would have progressed better if there has been a mentoring process from past leaders. They believe mentorship built a vital bridge connecting youth to valuable life skills, knowledge, and emotion essential for personal success.
One of the problems I have discovered in Nigeria is that our leaders tend to have this inaccessibility syndrome. Once you are a leader for the public, and therefore you should be open so that people can get to see you. From personal interactions, people can learn a lot of lessons, and this lesson will become useful.
But mentorship today seems to face a bigger challenge with advancement in technology as many youths spend more time on the social media.
For us to address this, we have to evolve and develop new learning mechanisms, new ways of mentoring young people that recognize their new culture and value systems.
A systemic injection of more young Nigerians into the cabinet of the present administration of President Bola Tinubu is also seen as a major step towards mentoring them into taking leadership responsibilities.
It is also facilitating or creating an environment of experience, earning experience, the personal development for those younger people. And don't also forget that you have FEC at a point in time with very experienced people, in their management. So that's also a level of interaction.
For the country to build that sense of patriotism and capacity of the youth to participate effectively in deliverance of good governance, the analyst suggests adoption of deliberate methods for mentoring young Nigerians with a sense of national cohesion. In Abuja, Joseph Oten, NTA News.
That report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guest to you. Welcome to this program. Rinisola Abiola is a Senior Special Assistant to the President on Citizenship and Leadership. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let me also welcome to this program Abdulaziz Abubakar Kaka, is Chairman APC Youth Stakeholders Forum. Thanks for being here. Right. We're joined tonight by Nia Kinshiju, economist and public affairs commentator. Good to have you.
That's always a privilege. Thank you so much.
And joining us via Zoom is the Minister of Youth Development, Dr. Jamila Bio Ibrahim. Minister, thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, as you all know, this program's character is based on the interviews in the studio, reports, and of course, an interactive session when the phone lines will be open. But when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and procedure. But for now, let's begin to look at the issues surrounding governance, mentorship, and youth development, the issues that have been brought to the fore in recent times. And of course, from late last week, when we saw the youths involved in many activities, let's begin to look at an assessment of the activities of the Nigerian youth. Last week, we saw protests, and it was all about demanding good governance and leadership. Right. Yes, protests are considered as the rights of the citizens. Sadly, of course, in some places, the protests degenerated and ended up as violent riots. But then let's even start off looking at the youths, their position in society, and how they are regarded and expected to contribute to national development. And to start off, let's go to the Minister of Youth Development, who will open this discussion on that premise. Minister.
Yes. Good evening, and it's a pleasure to be on the show. Well, the role of young people in national development is cannot be overemphasized, as we're the heart of this nation, and we're also considered the engine room, since we're about over 60% of the country's population. And I'll be speaking from the perspective of that the government, administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has placed a premium on political and economic empowerment of young people. So from policy formulation to programs, designs, and of course, initiatives of government have actually placed a high price on empowerment of young people politically and economically. Well, in order to ensure that young people play play more roles, to give more responsibilities to young people in national development, I believe that in March we took a memo to the Federal Executive Council for seeking for 30%, a minimum of inclusion of young people, minimum of 30% inclusion of young people at decision-making tables in government, from the federal, the subnational, that's the state level, and the local government level. So we're hoping to institutionalize this by an act of parliament, so that way we can empower young people to participate actively in governance, and of course in government, and then translating to national development. And we're also, as a part of implementation of this 30% minimum, 30% youth quota, with an equitable young women inclusion, we're also proposing to establish the Young Leaders Institute that will nurture and groom the next generation of leaders of this country. So beyond just creating more seats at the table, we're hoping that we can also prepare young people, providing the right networks, right mentorship for them, and of course the enabling environments to take on leadership positions. Well, that's from the policy side of youth inclusion in national development through leadership and governance.
All right, thank you. We'll look at what you've said in greater detail as we continue with the discussion. But let me come back here to the studio and raise this issue with the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Citizenship and Leadership. You do hear this always, all the time, the leaders of tomorrow. And there are people who have, spoken against that and said, no, you keep saying the leaders of tomorrow. When will tomorrow come?
Indeed.
We need the youths to bring their vibrancy, their energy to the table right now.
Yes,
so what's in it in this administration? The youths, of course, are a critical segment of society with strong voices. How well are those voices heard?
Well, I would say that as far as the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration is concerned, young people are not the leaders of tomorrow. Young people are the leaders of today. Young people are partners in progress, and young people are occupying key positions in this administration. We just got off the call with the Honorable Minister for Youth Development. We also have the Honorable Minister of State for Youth Development, Honorable Ayodele Olawande, who is the youngest member of the Federal Executive Council. We have other young people in agencies, heading agencies. I can make an example of Nasini, the Executive Vice Chairman, is a young man. Smedan as well is headed by a young man. We have very young people in positions of authority. And among those of us who are presidential aides, serving as SAs, SSAs, TAs, most of us are young people, an overwhelming majority of us are young people. So the president has been very deliberate about bringing young people into the fold and having young people take up vantage positions at the decision-making table. And that's because he believes in the potential of young people. And this is a track record. This is something that he has stayed true to since he was governor of Lagos State. He was known for nurturing talent, for supporting people, for building people up. And we see him doing the same thing as president. Now, beyond just having young people occupy key positions, I believe that the purpose of inclusion is to ensure that not only the voices of those of us who are at the table are heard, but that we also properly represent our generation, other young people who, for one reason or the other, are not able to participate in politics or do not wish to participate in politics. We are in government to ensure that their voices are heard and that their concerns are prioritized and that their interests are protected. And I make bold to say that we have been doing just that. And we can see the evidence of the work that we've been doing and the contributions that we've been making in terms of youth mainstreaming and youth development in the kind of initiatives that have been introduced by this administration and other steps that are being taken. And I really also want to add that every single decision that is made by the president is made with one very key factor in mind. It's that young people own this country. We make up the larger chunk of the Nigerian population. And whatever it is that is done today is meant to make the future better for us as young people. We are the ones who will inherit this country. We are the ones who will go on to occupy more substantive positions of leadership. And he is building a foundation that we can actually be proud of and that we can build upon. We have initiatives like the recently reintroduced Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, which is to help our young people build them up economically. Because if you want to talk about political power, economic empowerment is very key. So this is an administration that is prioritizing youth economic empowerment as well. We also have the Corepreneur Scheme introduced by the Honorable Minister of State for Youth Development. And what he's doing through that is to empower our young people in the NYSS scheme economically as well. Some of them have gotten grants through that initiative. And then we also have quite a number of initiatives. We have the loans by Smedan in partnership with Sterling Bank, providing loans to young people, especially in the informal sector, at much reduced interest rates to enable them also to support their businesses. We have the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, student loans, which thousands of young people have benefited from. This clearly is an administration that has concerned itself with developing young people, with building up young people, with supporting young people, and with equipping young people with the tools that we need to thrive at whatever stage we are, whether we're students, whether we're business owners, whether we're professionals. This administration is fully committed to prioritizing the needs of young people.
All right, good. So many issues you've raised. Let's go over to another young man, a young person, Abdulaziz Abubakar Kaka, Chairman, APC Youth Stakeholders Forum. That speaks for itself, that you're part of the political class. And Rizala was talking about beyond political power, but even let's even start on that premise with you, political power. The youth.
So thank you for having me once again. Like Rizala mentioned, the Honorable Minister for Youth Development, Dr. Jamila Bayo, Mr. Ayo Dele Wisdom, Rizala herself are all members of the youth wing of the party. And I can vividly remember before the campaigns when we went to meet Baba and to discuss about the future for the youths, and he clearly told us that we are not leaders of tomorrow, we are leaders of today, because this is our government. And from his appointments, from the initiatives introduced by the government, you would know that obviously he's walking the talk, and we're very, very proud. We appreciate what the president has done, and it's one thing to be appointed, and then it's another thing to deliver. Thank God this program, we're talking about youth development, mentorship also, and then governance, because we have lots of young appointees, like you just mentioned. Your Daily Wisdom is doing very well. He's gone around the states to engage people, be it corpers in the camp, be it young people in school holding town halls, be it people on the streets. These are the engagement, this is the energy that young people bring to the table. We're talking about Smedan, we're headed by Charles. He's also going around to have meeting with these hubs to know what do you actually want and how are we going to do it. They are working to talk, they are bringing this energy from the street to the executive or federal level, and from the political aspect, this is what we need young politicians to be doing. Like we're also proud of what she's been doing. She's going around also to engage, because it has to do with capacity building too. And so she's trying her best to make sure our youths are ready for these opportunities when they arise. So these are the kind of people that we are proud to associate ourselves with. As the chairman of APC Stakeholders Forum, I'm proud to say that whatever they do, if they go right, we give them cuddles, and if they don't go, if they don't do what you expect of them,
give them the knocks.
We give them the knocks, and yeah. So that's why I'm happy. And at the same time, like I said, it's one thing to be given an opportunity, and then it's one thing to deliver. And governance without engagement, it's not governance. It's I don't want to call it dictatorship, because there is no way you're making policies without engaging the people that these policies are meant to guide or protect. So we are happy with what the president is doing. She made mention of student loan. Over 50 billion naira has been disbursed, and about 6 universities have so far received their money. People have been getting not even the school, the scholarship, the student fee. They are also getting the stipends, the 20,000. And I'm so happy to read online that people are giving their testimonies. So what we need to do is for these young people in government to make sure they also go out to tell people about what the president is doing, showing them live reports, because it's one thing to do something, and then it's another thing to also blow the trumpet. So we really need to do more of that.
All right. Let's now come to Nia Kinshiju, economist and public affairs commentator, not so young in age, but I sincerely believe and know young at heart. So,
you can, of course, credit being a senior youth.
Yes, senior youth.
Right. Some of us, had a very robust years while growing, so it's still. It's inherent in us, the youthful aspiration, visions, and all that. Well, except that as you grow, experiences also mellow you, moderate you, and perhaps you, just as I noted earlier, you become a major producer of wisdom, and that slows you down. It talks to one, the inherent character of a jurisdiction. Where you have a demography that you have more than 60% of the youthful population, especially if you're talking of young people between 18, the age of understanding, and under 40, let's say 39 precisely. The character that it gives you is the character of a nation of energy, a nation of innovation, and a nation of creativity. And those three values are perhaps the most important drivers of development if they are properly harnessed. So it's a model jurisdiction, character of jurisdiction that most countries desire for, especially when you translate the demography, especially in terms of age, into a graphic format. It's the basic pyramid style. At the base of it, you have the youth being the foundation of the jurisdiction, as it were, and you cannot have it better, because it's the youth that provide you with entertainment, the joy of living. So if you are talking about entertainment, it's populated by the youth. And thankfully, Nigeria has come onto its own because we have a large population of youth that are exploiting the world of entertainment, not only in Nigeria, but outside Nigeria. Recently, one of our young, talented musicians was guest artist for, what's his name of this Indian billionaire, and earned close to close to 8 billion naira, for performing one song. Now that talks to us that we have started exporting talent to earn foreign exchange, and we are also proud of people like Burna Boy, and some others. Anytime they were on tour they have global concerts, they earn huge dollars. That's foreign exchange for us, Now we are also talking about innovation. I've seen the president supporting and, of course, commissioning a lot of IT hubs. IT is the major driver of development anywhere in the world. Any country that is not properly attuned to it, it's laggard. Before the president came, the Nigerian youthful population had held itself by the bootstrap, and even before now that you have a deliberate policy of government impacting that segment of the population, we have seen hubs, IT hubs in Lagos, Kano, Ilorin, and all that, and perhaps we have some of the most impressive startups, across the world, startups like Flutterwaves and others. These are money-making startups. They had become icons by themselves. So the Nigerian youth, by the nature of what you expect of them, had come into being. But that aspect of energy will be the concern. And that is what we are seeing reflecting in the society in the last few days, with this so-called protest. When you have a large population of youths, it means that you are summing up a large quantum of energy. So how do you now channel that energy constructively and positively? That is the challenge for us at this time. Now going forward, my other challenge is the youths are actually the mirror through which the older ones look at themselves. The translation is simple. Are we, as elders, provided the appropriate modelship for the youth, to emulate?
Right. So that's a big question, and intend to ask find answers to them at some point in time. But I'm told that we can now be joined by another of our guests tonight. He is joining us from our Kano studio, Ambassador Zaid Ayuba is National President, Arewa Youth Consultative Council. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Good evening, fellow Nigerians.
Right. Thank you. I'm sure you must have heard the other discussants talk about the role and, of course, the potential of the Nigerian youth. And we're looking at this in relation to governance, mentorship, and youth development. So let's get your opening comments first about youth, and then we take up other issues as they relate to the events of the last 1 week or thereabouts.
First of all, I would like to speak as the president of the Arewa Youth Consultative Council, at the same time a youth in Nigeria. When we are talking about the issues of governance, mentorship, and youth development in Nigeria, we should first of all look at the composition of Nigerian population. Let us say we have a president, a vice president, 360 senators, 109 members House of Representatives, and about 46 ministers in the country. Each of the state governors have deputy governors. So the simple analysis we should all give to ourselves for us to be able to understand whether there is mentorship in the country, or possibly there is an opportunity for the youth, for them to be able to inherit those in power today, is how many among the 36 governors in Nigeria are actually youth. When I say youth, I'm talking about those below the age of 40 downward, or possibly let us even look at it from the angle of those below the age of 30. And then out of the 46 ministers we have in Nigeria, how many of them are truly youth? And then when you go down looking at about 109 members House of Representatives, 360 senators, how many of them are truly youth? Now I am bringing this analogy because I want us to compare, because looking at the historical antecedents of Nigeria from 1960 to date, First, Second, Third Republic, we have seen how the youth, we have been given opportunities. We have been carried along, we have been mentored, we have been given the opportunity to learn the art of governance. We're actually not talking about SSAs, we're not actually talking about other aides that are attaches just to the president. We are talking about 60% of Nigerian population are youth below the age of 30. 70% of Nigerian population are youth below the age of 35. And 80% of Nigerian population are youth below the age of 40. This is a statistic not given by me. So it means if, let me say 0.5% of Nigerian youth will be given a little opportunity to partake in the affairs of governance, just for them to be attached to a component of governance, that does not actually explain that there is proper mentorship given to Nigerian youth. I am saying this because at the end of the whole conversation, we are going back to development, be it national development, be it youth development, be it economic, political, social, or whatever forms of development. When you look at the political parties structures in Nigeria, you realize that how many of these political parties have youth wing that actually influence the decisions of the internal affairs of these political parties. Look at the institutions in Nigeria. How many percentage of Nigerian youth actually have the opportunity to be able to say something for that to be listened to? So when we look at these realities on ground, we will be able to understand that there is a little gap existing between the older generation and the newer generation, which that gap must be, there should be nexus, a strong bond that could be able to link the two. The young need the old need the young, even for the energy, even for the exuberance, even for the passion to push certain things that could not be pushed by old age. While the young actually need the old ones because of experience, because of wisdom, because of certain guidance on why things should be done. Looking at what actually happened last week, we can tell ourselves that the gap that exists between those in the position of power and the actual youth is very large. And for us to fill those gaps, it means we have to do a lot of work. Not just a work of appointing 1, 2, 3 out of the Nigerian ministers for them to just be youth, or not just to have 1 or 2 persons as SAs. We have made an analysis of over 3,600 people in Nigeria are those occupying the position of power. When you put the 36 state governors, 360 senators, 109 members House of Reps, 46 ministers, vice president, the deputy governors of various states, and commissioners in every state, you will agree with me that all of these people, had there been an opportunity, had there been a chance where they are grooming other younger generations, let's assume each of them should be mentoring 10 or 20.
All right, yeah, good.
I will get back, sir. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Well, the reverse actually, 109 senators, with that. But you have raised the issue about how many of them are really youths that are occupying the decision-making positions of governance. But that's another matter altogether. But we'll still return to you because you've raised so many issues here. You said, for instance, that what happened last week was a clear indication that there is a huge gap between those who are churning out the policies and the youth who are supposed to be the majority. And so let me put that question to Rinsola Abiola and say, in what transpired and what unfolded the last few days, would you say that the voices of the youth made a strong impact on governance issues and what had later ensued?
That's a great question, but if you would permit me, I would first like to address some of the comments made by my brother in Kano. And it's regarding the question about mentorship and how many young people are in positions of authority. If we look at the House of Representatives today, there is a committee called the Youth in Parliament Committee in the House of Reps. It's headed by Honorable Lamiju Alao Akala. And for the first time, I think this is the largest cohort of young members of the House of Representatives below 45 that we have had since the return to democracy in 1999. And this is like one of the results that we've had following the passage of the Not Too Young to Run bill, which was enacted, signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari during his tenure as president back in 2018. We also have the youngest speaker in Oyo State. At the time he became speaker, Right Honorable Adebo Ogodoyin, when he became speaker during the last term, he was the youngest speaker then. In Kwara State today, we have the youngest member of the House of Assembly, Honorable Rukayat Shitu. She won her election when she was 26 years old. So we have quite a number of young people who are winning elections and who are occupying positions. And if you look at a state like Kwara, for instance, you will find that young people make up a very large proportion of the state executive council, and they also serve in other positions. And I'm saying this because it's very important that we understand that what the president alone is doing regarding bringing young people closer into governance and putting them in different positions, that is mentorship when it comes to governance and politics. My people have a saying about how you replace yourself with younger people. The president is doing that. The Kwara State governor, who is now the governor of the Nigerian Governors Forum, is doing that. He actually did it as well in his first term, so he's not just doing it because he's been able to secure a second term. In a state like Lagos, you will find young people occupying very key positions, heading agencies, working very closely with their governors. These positions are not positions where you're put to be ineffectual. They are positions where you're put to actually make a difference. You're passionate about this, you've been contributing to this. Come into government and advise us so that we're sure that we're not leaving your constituency, which is young people, behind. And I'm saying this because we need to understand that we run a federal system. And if we have states where young people are not properly included in governance or in the decision making, the onus lies on young people in each of those states to engage their leaders. When we came together to form the APC, before the APC merger had been concluded, we had formed the All Progressives Youth Forum. I was founding PRO of APC's strongest youth group at that time, APYF. Now, because not all of us are young anymore, we have transitioned to the Progressives Forum and removed the young from the name because we realized quite a number of our members have grown older. I'm still young though.
Right. Okay,
but I'm just trying to underscore the fact that we have a lot of work to do when it comes to advocacy. And these things, there's something that Shiwaju always says, power is not served a la carte. You have to work for it. Our leaders worked for it. Shiwaju is president today. His journey started. He was in the Senate. The democracy then that everybody had hoped for was truncated. The June 12, 1993 elections, they fought really hard for it. He was on exile at a point. My father died. We have a lot of democracy activists, known and unknown, who lost their lives in that struggle. That struggle started then. They fought for it. Power was not handed to them. As young people, we need to understand that just saying that you need to include us is not what is going to get that inclusion done. We need to show value. We need to engage our leaders, and we have to work to secure the representation that we desire. So if in certain states, if young people are not properly represented, let them engage the system. There is no political party without young people. There is no election in any state in this country without young people. There is no policy making without young people. If you're not being properly represented, engage your leaders, make them understand that if they refuse to value you, you will take the value that you add, you will take it somewhere else. We had to advocate for it. We fought for it. In the APYF then, there was hardly any issue within the party that we did not have a position on. We had organized ourselves and we had started to hold events before the party's registration was concluded. So I'm saying this to underscore how important it is for young people to engage the system, because this representation that we're asking for is not just going to be handed to us on a platter. We have to actually put in the work and show that we are capable of doing something. Regarding the question about,
yes,
I think, was that the question?
Yeah, the events of last week, and
yes.
I am asking, I said, given this vibrancy, this critical position the youths occupy, were their voices heard in the build-up and during the events of last Thursday?
Of last Thursday. So my office is actually very focused on civic education. And we have, there's an agency in the country, the Citizenship and Leadership Training Center, that is actually tasked with promoting civic education in the country. But it was created in 1951. It's not very active at the moment. We're currently seeking legislative reform to support that agency to be able to properly deliver on its mandate. What the voices of young people heard, I would say that yes, they absolutely were. And if we listen closely, or if we dissect the presidential address very closely, in that address, we have very key initiatives listed, either focused on young people or initiatives that young people themselves can benefit from. And another thing, again, that we need to be mindful of is the fact that what has happened since last week, the turn that these protests have taken and some of the disturbing developments we are seeing actually point to the fact that we need to do a lot of work regarding civic education. And we need to do a lot of work regarding engaging our people. And we need to do a lot of work regarding communication. It's also very clear that we need to also communicate very clearly, or rather emphasize the fact that we have different tiers of government. This is an administration that has worked to secure autonomy for the local government in the true sense of the word. What local government autonomy ensures, especially financial autonomy and administrative autonomy for the local government, what it ensures is that governance is brought closer to the people. With local government funds going to the local government, people can actually see what their resources are being used for, and even more so at the grassroots. This administration is doing everything that it is supposed to improve governance, to ensure that our people have a better quality of life and experience of being Nigerian at the grassroots. But we also need to ensure that our leaders at every step of the way, the president, the federal legislators, when we go to our states, our governors, our state legislators, state appointees, that everybody actually lives up to the expectation attached to the job and the office that they occupy. I'm afraid that it seems as though we put a lot on the federal government without actually looking at what is being done at state level. Allocation has increased. What are they doing with it? What is it being channeled to? What youth concerns are being addressed at the state level? The same way a lot of youth concerns are being addressed by the federal government.
All right. There's a lot of, but let's at this point return to the Minister of Youth Development. And last Thursday, in spite of the build-up to the events that unfolded, there had been a lot of talk about the youths who are now speaking. They were bringing out so many issues which they insisted had to be addressed. And unfortunately, in some parts, what was meant to be a protest, a peaceful protest, turned out to be violent. But how did you feel as Minister for Youth to see the large masses of youth who were expressing anger? Was it that their voices had not been heard or adequately heard before then? Or, as one discussant on this program has said, that there seems to be a huge gap between those churning out the policies and the youths, who constitute a very huge segment of the population?
Thank you very much. Well, it was disheartening to see the large numbers of young people who came out to express their feelings, basically, about, or the displeasure about the current situation. Well, what are we doing? Yes, it's been earlier stated that there's been a gap in communication, and well, we are in the process of, as a matter of fact, I'm actually currently in Ondo State, in Akure, where we're, as part of our youth engagement strategies, to communicate the policies, programs, and initiatives of government, in an attempt to bridge that communication gap. I'm currently in Akure for the Southwest Youth Stakeholders Engagement. The government is working hard to ensure that, and the government has also acknowledged that young people have expressed their desires for a better Nigeria, for economic prosperity and improved livelihood for the common man. And these concerns are actually valid and legitimate. And the government also acknowledges the economic challenges that we are all going through. And we have several programs and initiatives that we're communicating. And I'm very happy that these programs have been well received by the young people in the geopolitical zones that we have visited. We went to the North Central, and the second is the Southwest. I mean, it's amazing how the power of communication. And having engaged in this communication, young people are now beginning to anticipate and be a bit patient to ensure that the works that we're doing, the policies, the initiatives, the programs of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's led administration, they're patient to see that these initiatives bear fruit. Well, the government is working tirelessly to meet the needs of young people by implementing the Renewed Hope agenda. And The President's address also acknowledged the turmoil and the tragic loss of lives in several states of the Federation. He emphasized the importance of public order, and he has called for unity and cooperation irrespective of age, party, tribe, or religion. And we're also amplifying that call. To ensure that we come to dialogue, and this is what we're doing now, and we will continue to take this advocacy for dialogue and, of course, open conversations with young people. The next geopolitical zones, the other 4 geopolitical zones being the Northwest, the Northeast, the Southeast, and the South-South, as we're scheduled to visit those geopolitical zones. And then I'd like to touch a little bit on economic empowerment of young people. My sister Misola Abiola had earlier stated that the Youth Investment Fund has been relaunched. Well, it was restructured and approved with a budget of 110 expanded budget of 110 billion naira for the 2024 fiscal year to ensure that young people are supported to cope with the economic shocks of, the current economic shocks for their businesses, and of course to empower them to cluster up into, to group themselves into clusters in sectors of economic priorities to sectors of economic priorities, such as the agri sector, which is also the green economy sector, the blue economy sector, the creative economy sector, which was earlier mentioned by another guest on this show. And as a matter of fact, all priority sectors of the economy, to ensure that we move from young people are drivers of economic development, and we move from a whole purely consumer economy to productive economy. And then I think we need to also look beyond young people in entertainment, and this is young Nigerians in entertainment. I have a lot of respect for the creatives, but I think that we should not focus on building a society that is based on only creativity alone, which is important. It's a way of expression. Art is a way of expression, and art actually brings a lot of stability, and it's a way we communicate our culture and all of that. But I think that we need to think of improving our research. We're actually working very hard, because it's been part of the very intense, serious decisions in the Federal Executive Council on improving research and development in STEM. And of course, because if we continue to focus on the arts alone, who is going to be assembling our computers, who will be manufacturing our motor vehicles, and who will be designing our aircrafts? So we have put a premium also on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And of course, we're collaborating with the line ministries, because yes, we are custodians of the youth development policy, but we are not 100% implementers of all of the programs and initiatives. We want to be the catalyst for youth development. We want to be the ones who can respectfully hold accountable other ministries, departments, and agencies for what they're doing as when it comes to young people. And of course, with the presidential initiative on youth enterprise clusters that was also approved by the Federal Executive Council, is an initiative that allows for these priority sectors that I earlier mentioned to create clusters for young people, to provide for them the resources, the infrastructure that they need to add value to commodities of competitive and comparative advantage across the 6 geopolitical zones. And I was very excited when you said that in the beginning, in the opening, that young people are clamoring for unity and respect for constitutional order. And one of the objectives of the presidential initiative on youth enterprise clusters is to actually foster unity. We want to create build a Nigeria that the northwestern man sees the southeastern man as a business partner and not as an Iyamiri, because they will see them as off-takers for the cotton and the leather that they're going to be producing, for instance, in the Aba leather clusters, leather goods clusters that we're hoping to strengthen and improve the quality of the goods that come out of the Aba clusters, and of course the garment clusters as well, the cottage industries for garments as well. So there's a lot of transformative initiatives, especially as it impacts the economy. And we already alluded to the fact that young people have that energy, the innovation to drive and to push for this kind of transformation. And it is for our responsibility to create that platform as a ministry and an enabling environment for young people to be the catalyst for national development, especially economic development.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, we'll expand the scope of that. But in addition to the discussion here, we also have a number of reports. Let's get to see this one from Kaduna.
Nigeria, with a population of over 200 million people, the youths constitute the larger population, serving as the strength of the nation. While they serve as the bedrock of development of the society, mentorship, skills and empowerment at various levels will go a long way in nurturing and building the minds of these young lads into productiveness.
The future is not in our hands anymore. It's in the hands of young Nigerians. The skills they acquire, the competencies they acquire, the discipline they acquire is going to be what will determine what happens to Nigeria.
It has to be rebuilt so that skills can be built over the time, 1 to 3 years. Solid skills can develop them. And that if they are busy, and with that, they will be refined.
A lot of provision has been made for a youth development bank of about 100 billion. The credit corporation that would allow you to be able to access funds to do your mortgages. That the government has also provided for student loan scheme, where about 1.3 million students are supposed to be beneficiaries.
While the federal government is matching words with action, it becomes of the youth to utilize all available opportunities in ensuring they become good ambassadors of the country. Haruna Mohammed.
From Kaduna, let's take on this other report from Oka.
With findings revealing that technocrats are individuals with technical training and occupation who perceive many societal problems as being solvable with the applied use of technology, social analysts and political experts in Anambra State speak.
They should fashion out processes, programs, through which the young ones are inculcated into the leadership process of the country. A process through which all the rudimentary aspects of leadership is inculcated in them. The initiation of institutes program is also very, very important on the part of the technocrats and leaders. The Institutes for Leadership, for instance, is supposed to groom future political leaders.
Nobody is born with every experience. One needs to be mentored, both in politics and in other fields. And mentorship is a vital role that is needed to groom people who will get involved in modern governance.
Known for bringing reputational advantage both in terms of knowledge and a sense of putting national interest above political interest, the speakers, who acknowledged that Rome was not built in a day, maintained that collective efforts that will highlight value reorientation and integrity is needed to achieve the targets.
The youths have to redefine themselves. Being youthful doesn't mean to be unnecessarily exuberant in their approach to things. So they should be ambitious, not unbridled ambition. Ambitious in the right direction. The kind of leadership they want to provide, and start early enough to prepare themselves for that. not the character of accumulation, character of thuggery, character of violence.
There need to be a restructured mentoring system, starting from the family, schools, and other institutions of government to prepare individuals who intend to take their career in governance, to enable them first to understand what the society is all about.
There are values we have left, the value of integrity. We have left it a long time. Everybody wants the shortcut to everything. The younger ones are not, they don't see integrity as something that is worth having.
Create better opportunities for the youth to be able to develop themselves and then to be able to survive and thrive. The youth nowadays are seeing Nigeria as an opportunity to grab it and disappear. Be able to take it step by step and then make a good progress.
Acknowledging that a tree does not make the forest and uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, the general view is that proper mentorship, training and retraining of youth on what is expected of them as future leaders who will be patriotic and dependable will be of immense benefit. In Oka, Chinyere Fesi Okoye.
All right, back here in the studio, let me come on to Abdulaziz Abubakar Kaka. Well, you represent the APC Youth Stakeholders Forum, which you chair. But you saw, going back to last Thursday and the events that unfolded, you saw issues being raised that cut across party lines. Youths from all walks of life, including those who were politically active and those who were not, were speaking and raising certain issues which, strictly speaking, were not party-based.
Okay, so like I said earlier, most of these, I would attribute this protest to lack of communication of the government policies and programs. For example, one of the demands of the people from the north is for the government to open the borders so that they will bring in food. And then already Mr. President had already given a go-ahead, an order to take out duty on all foodstuffs and cash crops, not cash crops rather, wheat foodstuffs rather. So it's even better than even opening the borders, because if you open the border, you're still going to pay duties on this food when you import them. But then Mr. President already even waived that. So, but these people don't even know about that. So that's why they are busy on the street chanting it. For example, they are saying cost of transportation is like the president has already implemented, or let's say the government has already implemented over 100 CNG conversion centers, which would be used to convert the cars that we have now into CNG driven, which is way cheaper. We can use 4,000 naira CNG worth of should I say fuel to do what 20,000 naira fuel would do. So for example, if you have 100 buses plying interstates, because we have one plant in Kaduna around Greenfield, if we can have it, and probably the cost will now reduce to, instead of 2,000 or 5,000, it can reduce to like 1.5 per person. These are some things that are already in place. But the issue we're having is people are not communicating this to the people on the streets. We already told them, don't go into this, because when you go to the streets, there are people that are just redundant, not doing anything. They are waiting for opportunity. There is no place where protest ends up peacefully. A process of this magnitude, look at Kenya, look at Bangladesh now, look at South Sudan, and so we don't want that Arab Spring. What has it bet? We have young people in positions that we can hold accountable. We have young people that we can talk to. For example, my brother from Arewa Consultative is talking about not giving you the chance. Who would give you the chance? You have to come out and fight for it and get it. We have in Kaduna State right now, the Accountant General is 35 years old. I mean, what age group is he talking about? We have 32 years old being the economic advisor of Kaduna State Governor. We have 32 years old being head of ICT Directorate. These are directorates that are um, driving forces of this economy. Because when you give anybody these kind of opportunities, and we as youths, we have this problem of belittling people or our contemporaries that are serving as SSAs or SS2, governors, ministers, or presidents. If you don't serve, how then are you going to be mentored? Is anybody just, can we just give birth to a president? No, you have to pay your dues, you have to serve, and then grow to learn whatever it is that you want to grow. And maybe if you can now use the experience, the wisdom from the elderly, then you use it with your own energy, and then find a way to have a balance. We're doing well. We have young House of Reps people. The issue we're having is everybody wants to be part of a government, and that's wrong. We have, GIG Logistics, headed by Chidi. Chidi is not up to 40 years old. He's a young guy, and GIG is doing well. We have Shehu Tijani of Amaltech. This is a young guy. They're also not up to 40, and he's also doing well in the tech industry. We have young people, be it in our government and then in our private lives too. So we need to know that this is a collective. It's beyond parties, beyond APC. When you look at demography of people that are out on the streets, what pains me much is you see young guys of 8 to 15 years old complaining about hardship, complaining of lack of food to eat. How are we here? Is this something that just happened in 1 year? We need to ask serious questions. We need to ask ourselves, what is our community doing? What is the society turning into? This is beyond APC. This is about Nigeria. So we have basic schools that are mostly free in almost all the states. So why are they not in school? We have the school feeding program that is running by the government. So you don't have any excuse to tell you that he's on the street because he's hungry, because had he been in the class, he would get the food. But are they sending these guys to school? We just talk about, they're talking about education is expensive. I just made mention, we have over 49 billion was disbursed by NEL fund directly to these schools. And people are already, aside from the tuition, people are getting their monthly stipends of 20,000. We have lots of projects like the Delta Naseni is doing. This is to teach lead women in tech.
Yes.
We have the 3MTT by Bosun Tijani, Minister. There's one young guy that's also doing well. The plan is to train 3 million youths on digital skills, and then also to get them jobs. Not just training them, to get, because we have in the tech space, we have lots of opportunities, but if you don't know about them, you can't harness it. So what does he do? He trains in batches. As long as immediately you're done, you get access to this pool of opportunities, and then he links you up. So we expect people to communicate, especially the appointees, these initiatives to the people, and let them know that it's not going to happen over time. This is just 1 year in the office, and by God's grace, the testimonies you start hearing from next quarter is going to be so loud, more loud than what's happening now. The issue we fail to understand from the party perspective is when we got into the power, if you combine a PDP and Labour Party votes, they are more than ours. So obviously, the large majority of voters did not vote for us. So it's from a political angle, it's something that is understandable. So you're going to experience this, but what the government is doing needs to be communicated properly to the right people in the language they understand, because most of these things they're talking about as the solutions are in front of them. And then, like I said, right now, Mr. President has given local government autonomy. It means the locals would see their money now, they feel their money. Because of the money he's been disbursing to governors would now go large chunk of it to these people. So people will feel this government, people will feel the governance at the grassroots level, which is going to go a long way to bring about the change that we're talking about. You don't have to come to Abuja to experience. We do hope it's coming down to your doorsteps.
At this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll open the phone lines and you can get to join in the discussion, and we'll have other reports as well. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly. Right, thanks for staying with us. We're back with the issue of governance, mentorship, and youth development. This segment is when we open the phone lines. The numbers will be on your screen. We ask you to take advantage of those numbers and call in with your views or questions. And if you're calling in, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set when your call gets through to the studio. And we ask you to go straight to the point, keep it short. We enjoin you not to bother too much about the greetings. Just a simple hello will do. So the numbers will be on your screen. If you're calling in tonight with a question or comments, guests would respond to such issues as you might raise. We start off now with another report from Kano.
Mentorship has been the cornerstone of Kano's political history since the First and Second Republics. This tradition of guidance and wisdom has yielded remarkable leaders, such as Muhammad Abubakar Rimi, the state's first civilian governor, who was mentored by the visionary Malam Aminu Kano. Rimi's administration laid the foundation for Kano's progress, which still benefits the state.
Ahmad Bello, Sarona of Sokoto, Kare Abubakar Tafawa is his brother, and he mentored him, and they lead this country successfully. If you come to Kano, Malam Aminu Kano brought late Alhaji Abubakar Rimi, and Alhaji Abubakar Rimi, by then the old Kano, including Kano and Jigawa, he did well. Up to tomorrow, the political people in Kano are trying to emulate late Malam Aminu Kano. They are trying to emulate Abubakar Rimi.
Beyond politics, Kano mentorship culture has also shaped the business landscape. The continent's two wealthiest individuals, Aliko Dangote and Abdusamad Rabiu, both from Kano, attribute their success to the mentorship they received from their families. This tradition of knowledge transfer has enabled business to thrive across generations, with many markets still flourishing, owing to the wisdom passed down from parents and mentors.
We thank God as the market existed before even our parents, and we are now taking part in trading in this market.
However, youth who are at the forefront of this legacy believe more needs to be done to achieve sustainable progress.
One of the fundamental things we need is mentorship. The youth of nowadays have no mentors. We only think we want to end up today or tomorrow, become governors, House of Reps, senators, and so on, but it doesn't work that way.
And the level of mentorship can as well be increased through technology-based mentorship programs, through sustainable programs.
Observers argue that if current leaders emulate the selfless examples set by founding fathers like the Sardona of Sokoto, who is still revered for his mentorship and service, Nigeria can experience a renaissance. By embracing this timeless tradition, Kano's future leaders can unlock a brighter tomorrow for the state and the nation at large. In Kano, Aminu Umar, NTA News.
All right, that report from Kano. And let's quickly go to Ambassador Zaid Ayuba, who is in Kano studio, is the National President of Arewa Youth Consultative Council, and try and examine where this disconnect actually is. You've heard other discussants say perhaps there was a breakdown in communication, and so many things the youths were asking for had already or were already being addressed. But there were situations like we saw in Kano where the protest turned violent, and it had gone beyond the demand for governance, and it had moved on to the destruction of wanton destruction of property, and sadly including a facility that was meant to improve the skills of the youth. How do you respond to that?
Based on what we've seen last week, I will testify that if you critically look at the problem, you will understand that the disconnect actually have its root from one, that complication in channel of communication. One of the guests have actually spoken about how there is a problem in the issue of communication. Appointees of the government are failing to properly communicate to the general public on the effort of the government being made. That is number one. Number two is the issue of some of the policies of the government are majorly addressing the opportune. For example, some of the programs of the government are basically targeting those who have access to social media or those who have access to conventional education. And in my earlier speech, I said 60% of Nigerian population are youth. Out of those 60%, over another 60% among the population do not have access to these conventional opportunities. It means there is discontentment. Some of these youth that were out protesting actually have these grievances. Nobody is actually mentoring them in the society. Those in the position of power are actually succeeding in mentoring those they appoint. And we didn't say that everybody must have the opportunity to serve the government. We are talking about governance and mentorship, then leading to youth development in Nigeria. It means this mentorship simply means transfer of knowledge from those that are successful or those currently in power to those coming below them. And it must not only be extended to those within the purview of political power. Mentorship can be extended in business spaces, in other institutions in the society, meaning the government have a greater task to make sure that there is an open conversation. There is an open engagement of the general sector of the society so that everyone could be able to have the opportunity to be mentored. For example, from 1999 to date, we have seen how gradually the system in Nigeria is changing. Prior to 1999, somebody who is a child to a state governor will have the opportunity to go to the same school with a farmer. He can go to the same school with somebody who is just a fisherman. But today in Nigeria, we can all attest to the fact that most of the people who have the opportunity to be mentored in political positions are either relatives of those occupying the political offices or those whom were known to be children of those that have given support to politicians while looking for while campaigning for their way into power. This actually tells you that most of this problem we're having in Nigeria is only a crisis of leadership development versus failure of mentorship. Who is actually mentoring who? If we can ask each and every political office holder in Nigeria, how many people has he successfully mentored throughout his stay in office? For example, 4 years. How many people can a senator successfully mentor to know how legislative proceedings are actually going on? How many people can he boast that he have supported and given them educational support? You can mentor somebody, not necessarily giving him political position. What we're actually saying is the gap actually existed from the relationship that exists from those with the opportunity and those who don't have the opportunity. The society is just left in shambles. Those who are supposed to mentor others in educational line, in the markets, let's assume in corporate sectors, are actually doing it successfully because the corporate settings is organized in a way that after you have finished your tenure, you are actually mentoring someone that will successfully take over from you. But when we look at the public service, mostly it is done in the civil service, while the politicians are only busy carrying those they can actually appoint to be, to be seen as a segment that are actually representing the youth. I have 3 formulas. If we truly want to set the trajectory right, what actually happened last week may likely happen again if we fail to treat it the way it should be treated. 1, I said it in my earlier Tuesday live, we need an urgent Nigerian citizen town hall meeting where concerns could be addressed. Youth leaders and organizations could come forward for them to be engaged in conversations that they can help the government in reaching out down the ladder to other segments of the society. 2, there is an urgent need for everyone occupying political position to remember that after every 20 years, there seems to be a change in those who occupy those political positions. You cannot remain in political power forever. It means you need to pay your due. You need to do something positive. After mentoring those you appointed, you need to be giving your contribution in developing other spheres of the society. Be giving sponsorship and educational scholarship to the children of the poor and those who cannot afford to go to school. Schooling is not just about NELFON now. There are those who cannot have access to the NELFON. There are those who cannot have access to that 20,000 naira being given to the children of the poor as a support. There is supposed to be a level playing ground for the children of the rich and the poor. All the Nigerian youth are asking is an environment, an atmosphere where everyone can thrive on his own. The government only need to make lives easier. The government only need to introduce policies that are favorable to the living condition of the people. The government only need to understand that whatever policy they will implement, there are those who cannot come in terms with those policies. There are those who cannot benefit or who can never come closer to those programs being initiated. It means if the government will provide a level playing ground for everybody, if the government can provide certain interventions in every sphere of human life, definitely the Nigerian youth will be able to find avenues where they could be mentored without actually coming out to street to protest. It is simply because life is unbearable. That is why Nigerian youth are actually coming out to show their grievances.
All right. Okay, we'll return to that, but need that be so violent? But we'll talk about that. But let's come back to Nia Kinshiju. While the protests lasted, there were those who vehemently asked that the president address the nation, which he did. But after that address, there are those who said the key ingredients of the protests were not really touched on by the president, that what he did was just reel out what his government is doing. And some felt that wasn't it. Some have even gone ahead to say there's a need for the president to come back and address the youth once again. What are your thoughts on the president's address?
Well, I must acknowledge the fact that the president is very deliberate in his policy conceptualization and implementations. And perhaps for the first time we can actually start crediting the government over the last so many years for taking on the development of our future. And of course for also a determined move to shift our economic focus, from that of dependency to productivity. We've had an economy over time that had simply stopped creating jobs. And the direct responsibility or the direct fault in that regard is the fact that we spend so much money subsidizing consumption in terms of fuel subsidy, for instance. So the money that we are supposed to pump into the economic space, either for social development, increased access to education, increased access to hospitality, to health, enhancing infrastructural growth and development so that businesses can thrive and flourish. We were actually, consuming literally PMS that was not exactly producing or leading consequentially to income or earnings. So the economy was not creating jobs. And for a youthful population as huge as we have to thrive and flourish, the economy, must create jobs. And what I see in the government's policy deployment, it's that over a period of time, this economy will start creating jobs. That is one. Then two, I want to deviate a little bit to the fact of the legacy of what we call the baby boomers. I know you are also a baby boomer. You know, I don't think the baby boomers have any claim, you know, on value sustainability that they usually accuse the so-called millennial and Gen Z especially. Because like I said, they are the mirrors through which we should look at ourselves. So if the Gen Zs or the millennials had become more materialistic or anchor after asset acquisition, they must have learned it from us. We are supposed to be the models.
Really?
Yeah. So if we learned values from our parents, and we determine that for you to grow, there should be some sort of modesty, some sort of moderation and all that, you know, what did we teach most of our students, most of our children, that they now, you know, anchor desperately for immediacy in terms of what they aspire for materially or in terms of accomplishment? That is just another one. Then two, why I want to give credit to what the president is doing in terms of restructuring the whole facet of the Nigerian economic and political space is this thing about that the way he approached the redemption of the local government system. The local government system is supposed to be a huge ecosystem in the Nigerian political space. And if we are talking about mentorship, if we don't have a functional local government system, there's no way we can have an effective political mentorship system in place. Because one, you have removed a whole layer of leadership development. Because it is at the local government level that you have the councillorship system. And at that level, you have more young people, you know, having opportunity for access to power and power management. And it is from there that the tutoring starts. And of course, you also have larger numbers of these younger elements, you know, having access to this mentorship and training by terms of numbers of councillors, for instance, per each local government. So we can say, for instance, an average of 10 wards in a local government across, you are talking of 10 councillors, for instance, in a local government, times 774 local government. So at any point in time, you have close to 10, if not more than 25,000, you know, people going through training. Because when you start from councillorship, it starts building your focus, your capacity, you know, in the political space. It is also a natural process of identifying who will mentor you. You know, it is a natural process of identifying what particular school of thought politically do you want to lean towards, you know. So by the time you break out, you have been defined politically. And of course, you have your own focus on what you want to do. It is from there that even your mentors will determine that this person has capacity because he has been able to do this as a councillor. It's likely from councillorship you want to become a chairman, you know, then you are also identified, your capacity is also identified. So what I'm trying to say essentially is what we experience either at the NSAS level or at this August 1 protest, it's principally because there had been a denouement of sorts in the access, in the character, you know, of the average Nigerian youth. So the important thing for me is to start encouraging Nigerians to see the potentials in what the president is doing, you know, in terms of redeeming the local government system, and of course letting them see, and of course this is actually where you see the manifestation of renewed hope, because here there is hope that like a larger population of Nigerian youths will be engaged politically, and of course from what they have even itemized in terms of programs and all that targeted at Nigerian youths, it also talks to the fact that you will not just be politically
enhanced, you are likely to have capacity to grow in the world of business.
Okay. We have a caller on the line, Daniel calling in from Abuja. Hello, Daniel. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening, sir. My name is Daniel. It's Don Fade Okringo from Abuja. I'm the National Coordinator of Joy Youth of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I am happy for this program. And, the reason why the president is as a result of passing information to the local people. There are people who have been appointed into these offices, but they don't know what they are doing. They are youth, but they don't know what to do. I think they have to be educated as to what to do. Now, people who are in office currently, the young ones, you call them, they won't even pick your call because they think they are ahead of you in position or in one thing or the other. They have the privilege. They won't even call. They won't even pick your calls. You have suggestions to give to them. They don't even respond. So what are they there for? As youth, as young people, we are proud that you are giving us this opportunity that no other person has given to us. You see, I thank God for Kaka. I thank God for my sister Risola and my brother from the north who spoke very well. The gap is too much. The community and those who are appointed as experts to the president on community engagement, they should go and do their work. Let the community, the people down there know what the president is putting in place for them. This president has done things that no other person has ever done. The people need to know this thing. That's the reason why they are coming out, because they don't get the information. They don't know what is happening. Not only social media, like our brother said, only few percentage are on the social media. Let's go down, please. Because this president, the activities of this president need to be known by these people. It is for the good of every one of us. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Daniel. Okay. I wonder if we still have the minister on line with us. Right. We'll try and see if we can get her back and bring up some other issues. But let me come to the part where Andy Kishiju has alluded to the fact that the young people now, the youth, are indeed a reflection of the older generation. And I was wondering if we had all those values, if any concerted effort was made for the younger ones to imbibe such values, if we have failed. Do you think there's a greater percentage of failure on the part of the older generation in instilling these values to the young population?
I would say that there's a lot that goes into raising a child. It takes a community to raise a child. And also, you could do your very best as a parent, and then when that child goes into the world, mixes with other people, it's very likely that they develop a worldview of their own that is actually quite different from what they were raised with. And we've seen examples of that. But at the same time, we've also seen very troubling developments where parents who perhaps feel like they missed out on something by abiding by their values encourage their children not to. Because we also see that happen quite a lot of the time as well. Oh, I was good when I was young, and I feel like perhaps you need to be more aggressive. Just go out there and take whatever you can. So it's like we see that quite a lot as well. And ultimately, I think it boils down to the fact that quite a number of people, I wouldn't say they're not aware of these values, but they seem to have forgotten. And people have a saying, "What your humanity wants, remember the child of whom you are," and it speaks to the kind of character that you must exhibit when you're outside. You have to strive to represent your parents well. But I think we've gotten to a point where material things are valued above morals and above character, and it's really starting to tell on our society and the kind of things that people justify and the kind of things that people even expect, even from office holders. People have all sorts of demands, people have all sorts of expectations, and then you begin to wonder, you look at the wages, you look at what you earn legitimately, and the kind of pressure that is on you, and then you begin to wonder, how do they expect me, occupying this kind of position, to be able to meet up with all of this? So there's actually quite a number of factors at play, and a lot of it has to do with the society as well. And if I could, do I still have a minute?
Well, I'll return to you. Let's see if we can get this call through. Imam calling in from Kaduna. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead.
My brother from Kano actually spoke well about the disconnect between the programs of the government and that of what is going on in the society. The government need to do well. It's not all the youths that are in social media, like he said, that are following what the government is doing, and the government need to check in their policies whether it's really going to work with the type of people we have and the type of education we have. That's what all I can say. Good morning.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right,
Yes.
thank you. So very briefly, I would like to address something else, which is a very important point that my brother in Kano raised, and it's the issue of education and the kind of programs that are available. I would again make reference to Smedan for an example. They have a fund, not funding by Smedan itself, but they have an arrangement with Sterling Bank, for instance, providing loans for informal businesses. We're not unmindful of the fact that the informal sector also needs a lot of attention. And beyond just Smedan, a lot of initiatives as well are targeted at the informal sector. We have the nano grants, the conditional cash transfer, which 600,000 nano businesses have so far benefited from. 50,000 naira each with 400,000 more to go. This is one of the things that the president himself referenced in his speech. But one thing that I think we need to understand is this, and again, this goes back to the issue of the different tiers of government and their responsibilities. It is the local government that is responsible for primary education. We have free education up until a certain level. If our children are not going to school, despite education being free, up until GS3 at the very minimum, there is a problem at the state level that needs to be addressed, because it is the state level, it is the authorities at the state level that are responsible for ensuring that kids get into school. The administration has introduced a student loan fund to enable those who are experiencing a financial challenge to actually have higher education. And we have to be honest about something. The more education you have, the greater your chances of earning well. The more educated you are, the greater your earnings increase. The challenge with education is something that we should not be satisfied with. It's something that we need urgent action on. And we have to hold our leaders accountable at those levels. Why are you, as a local government chairman, when primary education falls within your purview, why are there children roaming around your local government who are out of school? And how are you looking at this and bearing it and not doing something to fix it? How are you, as a governor, seeing this scary large number of young people who are out of school? No primary education, no secondary education. What are you doing about it? This is an emergency that we need to begin to tackle. And it is not the federal government. The federal government can introduce school feeding, encourage children to stay in school. But if we do not have policies at the state level that actually ensure that children stay in school, we're not going to reap the full benefits of whatever intervention the federal government can make, because it's not within their purview.
Do you wonder sometimes is that some of the challenges you face in Nigeria, things that they say the more you try to understand it, the more confused you get. Now, if you were to take it from that angle and say, let's point to a state like Borno, where Governor Zulum was reported to have expressed surprise that there were kids, barely 10 years old, who were up in the streets and protesting, and they didn't even know what they were protesting against, and he's surprised. Now, if you look at a state like that has suffered due to the insurgency and insecurity, and the efforts the government has put in, which so many people have acknowledged, could that still be the problem, that nothing is getting to them? Or could it still be that, as he says, there was some foreign interference as well? Just before you take on that, let's see if we can get Sunday online. Sunday is calling in from Abuja, I believe. Yes, Sunday, go ahead. Hello, Sunday. We don't have much time. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. Yes, I'm watching your live program, and I will have a little contribution to make.
Go on.
Okay, please. What is happening last week is just that the government is totally disconnected from the people. The government is totally disconnected from the people because if you look at what happens, shows that the people are hungry. The youth are hungry. If you look at the kind of people that came out on the road, you know that those kind of people are not to come out on the road because why they came out, because they are angry and they are hungry. So when the government is taking any decision, you should know the kind of people that is taking decision, you know the kind of people that is dealing with, so that whatsoever decision is taken, it will not affect other people. I'm not surprised. I've been watching the people that the one that is with you in the station. It's because they are in government, they do not know what is happening. If they know what is happening, go on the road, you see the kind of suffering people are suffering. And all this they are not asking government to give them money. All what they ask is that they should make things easy for people so that they can live. That is all what they are asking for. And I think government should be sensitive enough so that it will look at it. Look at what is happening everywhere. Both young boys, I was looking at Kano every year, small boy. What does small boy lose in protest? It's because they are hungry. So please, government should take a decision that will favor others, not only in the government. And if you look at the kind of some ministers, some of the people that is government, the way they are talking, they are fueling this. They were fueling this program. They were fueling what is happening. So they should know the way to approach people, talk to people, so that people will come down. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Sandy. Yes, actually, you know the issues. And he touched a little bit about that. Kids are on the streets.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier too, coming from the north, it pains me because we have the highest number of youths that are out of school, according to a UN report, and the events of last week proves that. So it's disheartening, it's frightening at the same time. So, but like I said, this is not something that happened within a year, and it's not also an excuse for a young guy to raise a placard complaining about the price of Igbo, that's Indian hemp, or price of all these intoxicants. So what my sister said, actually, it also comes down to that, the community. How are we raising these children? How are the parents, that's you, how are you raising? What culture, what values are you pushing onto us? And then also the community around us, what are they teaching us? What are we picking from that? Because they said the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So if we are this bad, then that means that it's wrong somewhere from the values from the older generation to us. And then the concern now is the products of these Gen Zs. Absolutely, people are hungry, people are disgruntled, there is hardship. But even before the campaigns, or during the campaigns, Mr. President has repeated it several times that it's going to be hard. That we should please know and believe in whatever he's doing. I think this is the first time we're having a president that is working the talk, because if you go through the Renewed Hope agenda, all these things we're doing now, it's something that is already in the system, in the agenda. So now, like I just said, is how are we going to now get the best out of these policies? So I don't agree with the fact that my brother from Kano said most of these people that are not on conventional media, that's not an excuse. We have leaders in every community. What stops you from, I'm talking to him directly, what stops him from making or giving a center to enroll these people on these government initiatives? You cannot tell me that the child of a poor man cannot access a NEL fund student loan. It's interest-free. You're not going to pay until maybe 2 years after NYSC. That's if you've started working. If you've not started working, you're going to have extension. So the government will take care of your tuition fee. Government will still be giving you stipends. So as you have this information, what do you do to now make sure that people in your immediate community get access to it? Once we pick this responsibility as individuals, ourselves, people that are exposed or have access to this information, once we do it, we go around, especially we from the north, it's going to reduce large number of people that are out of school, because you cannot tell me if it's not free, it's not even scholarship. It's government that is paying. If you don't have a job, you're not going to pay. So what's the stake? What's the risk? So we need to do more as individuals and as community leaders. It's not even about party now. It's about us, the youths, because whether we like it or not, we are the leaders of today and tomorrow. And if we don't get it right now, then we're not going to have a place that we're going to lead.
All right. We'll like very much for Ambassador Ayuba in Kano to respond to what you've just raised. But quickly before we do that, Nia Kinshiju, you're an economist. Speaking of the breakdown in communication, poor communication, why is there a feeling that most of the policies or the issues that are causing hardship or exacerbating the hardship of the people are being recommended by the IMF and the World Bank and such foreign institutions?
Well, I don't think that is the issue, really.
Yeah, but the thing is, you heard when people spoke during those things, and they're saying that what's causing this hardship is because we are dancing to what is being prescribed for us. Is that the case? So what's causing that impression?
I don't think so.
Why do people hold that impression?
The IMF has a template of its own. But what the federal government is implementing, it's organic to the federal government, you know. The IMF would always tell you, maximize your resources. And how do you maximize your resources? Make sure that you invest where you get returns.
Okay, they talk about subsidies.
That's what I'm saying. That's the maximization, you know. The subsidy was supposed to be a temporary measure between, I think, 1973, when we experienced our first real inflation at 30%. That was when fuel subsidy was introduced. We had moved from an agrarian, agric-based economy to a petroleum-driven economy. And therefore, our food production then had fallen, you know, so much that from an average 5% inflation rate in the 60s, between 69 and 1973, our inflation rate galloped, you know, from 6%. Even after the war, we were not high, you know. We galloped from 6% to 30%. So there was a need for an intervention. That was where the subsidy started, you know. It was supposed to be a stabilization measure, but over time, it became institutionalized. And unfortunately, it was institutionalized in a way that we did not also domesticate our production capacity in terms of our refinery capacity. It now became worse. We were not producing, again, we were not refining domestically. We were now importing virtually all our consumption needs. We reserved 420-something thousand domestic feedstock, that is for our crude oil, that is dedicated for Nigerians' consumption. Rather than find a way of refining them here, we export it. We export and take just one out of about 36 line possible other products that we could produce from our refined products. So we had become wasteful, you know. So now we were not just now subsidizing the product, the usage of the product. We're also subsidizing the foreign exchange that we use in purchasing, you know, the product. So in all possible consideration, what we're supposed to earn organically, to invest in developmental purposes.
So for those who say it's the medicine prescribed by the IMF, they're not correct.
They are not.
Okay.
This is our reality.
Again, it brings back the question of communication.
That communication too? There's a need first to also attend to that perception challenges. Everybody that had called in here had talked about government. We have the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And we have 3 tiers of government and governance in that Constitution. The major tiers are the federal government and the state government. And of course, the residual local government. But anytime the average Nigeria is speaking and referencing government, they come to Abuja.
Would that be because there's too much power at the center?
I don't think so. I don't think so. At the center, it's even if you are going by the FAC allocation, the FAC allocation it's 52, 26, 22. You know, so which means that everybody that comes to Abuja has something big, you know, part of the pie, bigger part of the pie to take away, and it's even bigger now with this with the new policy, you know. But the problem is, someone in my village, you know, somewhere in Ondo State, will be talking about road that passes his frontage and wants the federal government in Abuja to come and construct that road for him. And meanwhile, the responsibility of that in the constitution is in his backyard, the local government.
Okay, let's go over to Kano now and talk to Ambassador Zaid Ayuba. Yes, and we're winding down at this point, so if you can just make this quick.
I think it's important for us to clear this. Loving your president is also part of patriotism. And it's important that I tell my brother and my sister there that in the 2023 election, I was one of the biggest supporters and those who gave the president the biggest support, because I coordinated the 19 northern states under one of the biggest youth support group in northern Nigeria for the president to win election. So me giving my contribution is because I want things to get better. And the reality of it is the responsibility of the government supersede whatever any citizen or any individual or group can do. We as youth organizations are doing the best we could do to mentor the younger ones, to engage them in positive conversations and engagement that will open their eyes to broader things that happen. For me to still give my own contribution in relation to governance, mentorship, and development in Nigeria, I will suggest that this government should try to do things differently from the previous government. I must commend the president. He's doing excellently well. But ordinary Nigerians may not understand him, because one of the reasons why ordinary Nigerians always look up to federal government for any complaint is because it is the federal government that remove our subsidy. It is the federal government that bring policies that will cut across all the boundaries of the country. It is the federal government that have the finance and have all the exclusive lists. Ordinary Nigerians doesn't care about the residual and concurrent list that is shared between the state and local government. It is important at this juncture that this current government should start looking at the possibility of creating Nigerian Youth Development Commission. Instead of creating Niger Delta Development Commission, Northeast Development Commission, now North Central and Northwest, the youth are the nerves, are the most important segment of every society. If they will be creating development commissions to empower regions, why not they should create a development commission that basically look at youth issues with a special funding that will be going down to the grassroots. That Nigerian Youth Development Commission will at the same time be saddled with the responsibility of engaging our traditional rulers. One of the reasons why whatever the government will do will not be felt by the common man is because our traditional institutions are somehow being neglected because of our politicians. You can see that the power of a politician and the influence of one politician, for example, one senator, supersede the influence of a first-class traditional ruler, for example, in northern Nigeria. And number two, the religious leaders. Okay. The religious leaders and traditional rulers are the two most fundamental pillars in human society, whether to the Christians or the Islamic community. Okay. So I advise that traditional and religious leaders should be engaged, because when we're talking about mentorship, it shouldn't only be about political mentorship. We should look at other angles. Some can be groomed, can be mentored to be clergymen. Some can be mentored to be traditional office holders. By that, we are reducing the expectations and the complaints, complicated complaints being meted out on the government. And I hope we will grow up to be responsible leaders that are well mentored.
Okay,
And those
thank you
that could mentor
so very
others.
much, Ambassador Zaid Ayuba, National President, Arewa Youth Consultative Council, who joined us from our Kano studio. Thank you so much for your contributions tonight. Thank you. All right. All right. Thank you. Okay, and back here, we're winding down in just a couple of minutes. Salah Abiola, SSA to the President on citizenship and leadership. Yes, final word.
Well, first off, I would like to also clarify a few things to my brother, Ambassador Zaid. My point actually is not that he doesn't have a point. It's the fact that in lumping things together, as young people, we need to communicate clearly with our constituency as well. Can I go on?
Yes, just maybe a few more seconds.
Yes, certainly. So, pointing out the fact that certain things are for the local government to do is not absolving the federal government of responsibility. And if we've removed subsidies, it has also freed up funding allocation for our states. And as young people are asking for certain things from the federal government, it's also important that they demand accountability at state level. This increased allocation, what youth initiatives are we seeing at the state level? The funding that is not coming to local governments, what are we seeing that can directly impact young people? That's what we are saying.
Right, thank you very much. And Abdulaziz?
Okay, I'll speak from party angle and also the youth angle too. So this is a call to all young appointees in the government and then also political appointees of the government to make sure they do their best to sell the policies and programs of this government, because they are representative of the people, they are representative of where they are coming from. So they shouldn't just be in Abuja, they should go back to their places, talk to these people in the language they understand in the grassroots level, and then communicate, because without them, without these people in the grassroots, they would not be where they are today.
All right. And a quick word from Nia Kinshiju, so we round up.
The patriotism factor.
Right.
How do we get our youths, to appreciate what it is to be patriotic as we try to struggle to survive, to sustain ourselves? It is very important that we have that patriotic outlook. Right. Thank you, Risola, for clarifying the fact that the federal government is responsible for removing subsidy, but the earnings from that savings are put on the table every 30 days, in Abuja, and shared amongst all the tiers of governments. And we expect that Nigerians, youth and old, should go and ask their governors, what are you doing with this increased earning? Your local government, what you are doing too.
All right, thank you very much, Nia Kinshiju, economist and public affairs commentator. And ladies and gentlemen, it's been interesting talking to you on this matter. Thank you. We've just about come to the end of it. We must leave this conversation here and maybe pick it up at some other point. Thank you so much. Well, unfortunately, we couldn't re-establish the links with the Minister of Youth Development to give us final thoughts on this matter. But we'd just like to thank her for being part of it from the start of it. And also thank you for being part of it, those who called in, and those who stayed up with us to this point. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.